Alright, Part 2 MCCS Policy Manual, Section 3, Chapter 1. 1308, Non-Appropriated Funded Accounting Year of the Accounting Year of the MCCS Non-Appropriated Funding Instruments begins with February 1st and ends January 31st of the following year within 15-day leeway authorized for the beginning and end dates. The accounting year designation shall be with the calendar year when a major portion of the business was conducted. 1309 MCCS non-appropriated funding financial capitalization standards profitability. All MCCS non-appropriated funding instruments shall achieve as a minimum break-even or positive net income insufficient to provide non-appropriated funding capital requirement standards. All activities authorized operation, business operation, including auto skills, other skills centers, polling center, 12 lanes or less, information ticket tour activities, stables, government-owned horses portion are classified as revenue generators. All revenue generated activities must at least break even annually, including depreciation, but excluding prorated with the common support function, assuming the activity is funded adequately with the appropriated funding. Prorated common support costs must be covered at the company level with a total operating profit from all MCCS business operation financial position sufficient to cover the requirements, including necessary operation, cash, and inventory shall be maintained. Adequate operating capital must be maintained at all times. Watch list criteria. The MCCS Board of Directors has established the following minimal standards for the MCCS installation and appropriate funding instruments. Any installation meeting two of these criteria will be put on the watch list. Installation financial trouble. Asset test ratio below 75 to 1 for 4 successive quarters. Current ratio below 2 to 1 for 4 successive quarters. 3 total sales growth with the consumer price index to the MCCS average of 4 successive quarters. Year to date net income decline with 3 successive years or 3 years of net loss. 5 year to date budget variances of the net income more than 10% below the original and against revised budget with 2 successive quarters. Based above criteria, installation fewer than 2 flags for 2 successive quarters eligible for removal of the watch list. See nonprofit revenue generator activity. MCCS Board of Directors monitors for the financial condition, installation, and appropriate funding instrument through procedure practices of the BOC. Non-appropriated funding investment strategy, cash management organization will maintain the non-appropriated funding investment strategy to guide program development and efforts. Align requirements or capabilities of the MCCS program and indefinitely sustain even as a moderately inflammatory environment or in sustained contingencies. Offer values to Marines and their families. Sources. Funds for investment come from 3 sources. 1, retained earnings, which are net operating profits of the MCCS operation. 2, borrowed funds. 3, interest income with a non-appropriated funded investment. MCCS final strategy will be continually improve the operation to increase the net operating profit leverage with financial strength with a balance sheet through central borrowing capitalization, interest income, consolidated investment, expanded credit services, guidance of non-appropriated funding capital investment strategy must address ongoing recapitalization, physical plant and fixed asset. Non-appropriated funding capital investments shall be made with expanded visible program that are deemed the good financial investment support our equity standards and serve the customer needs with a relative balance of the 3 goals will continually evolve, change based on local leadership, evolving missions, available the resources. 2, the money maintained borrowed by the deputy commander. mRNA, MR of commercial sources accelerate and sustain funding of the capital requirements along as the return on the investment validated but to be greater for the cost of the borrowing for revenue generated activities. Third-party opportunities shall be considered to expand our enterprise, either the partnership, private sector companies, local governments, and or private investors for a C with the Department of Defense Instruction 10.15.13 reference AS. Multi-year consolidated purchasing capital assets shall be utilized with the central procurement. Decentralization distribution of the assets will result in uniformity of the savings. Z. Cash management. Cash management should be monitored closely to ensure sufficient cash available for the operation capital investment. Excess cash routinely the recapitalize of the program. Annual statement of cash flow is also required per above. 3. Capitalization. Enter for the MCCS organization will maintain an aggressive capitalization program, compromise local capitalization plan, central investment plan, given the diversity of the installation and their respective financial capabilities. It's not possible to establish an annual capitalization goal based on sales. Installation will maintain 3 capitalization plan tied to a strategic business plan. Plans to keep up with 50% of the book value on the aggregated fixed assets by the category. The central investment plan will incorporate assessments from field activities as well as commercial borrowing program to leverage company assets. The amount borrowed will be approved and managed by MCCS Board of Directors. 4. Performance management. MCCS program shall be supported with a defined outcome networks determined by the Department Deputy Commander MNRA and MCCS Board of Director Installation Commander at our headquarters. 1310. Planning budgets. Commander of the AC Assistant Chief Secretary Directors of MCCS shall submit with a non-appropriate fund with the Deputy Commander of the MRNA for approval. The DCMRAMR will issue budget guidance. Installation will complete with the budget approved for the installation commander of the accounting system by mid-October for each year, with a date to be determined by the MR controller published for the annual budget guidance and for the MCCS Board of Directors approval. Installation commander of the designated representative shall brief the MCCS Board of Directors. MCS program will not at least break even after local capitalization, maintaining current ratio of 2 to 1, asset test ratio 75 to 1. 1311. The revenue generators assessment purpose of the installation. MCCS revenue generator activity shall be assessed in small percentage of the scale of the other revenue. This asset is usually the support of the deputy commander of the MR&A with the operating fund, with the central construction fund, other centrally funded Marine Corps non-appropriated funding program. Installation 2 for the room of the deputy with the commander of the MR&A operating fund. Shall be with appropriated fund with the maximum extent practicable. The supplemental funding of the non-appropriated funds will be provided through the sales assessment person set with the MCCS Board of Directors. All Marine Corps revenue generators, which are defined below. Funding of the CCF in order to meet essential requirements of the MCCS moral welfare and recreation activities, essentially managed facilities, major environment improvement construction programs for the activity to maintain the administration of the DC mRNA. This amount is primarily funded through the sales assessment percentage set by MCCS Board of Directors. Of all Marine Corps revenue generators defined below, the CCF shall consist of the funds assessed for revenue generator activities, gaming machines at overseas location, interest earnings of funded balance borrow funds. For asset activities, accessible activity sale of the services following business for the operations activity subject to the CCF operating fund assessment as revenue generators. All net sales of food, beverage, entertainment, hospitality operation, both direct and indirect. Note: some public-private ventures businesses will not be assessed on net sales. See 4E below. All net revenue from gaming devices, overseas location, intra MCCS sales are excluded from the assessment. L. Net retail sales, direct and indirect, of the CE4E, excluding sales from the uniform item provided with the Defensive Supply Center in Philadelphia. All direct and indirect C4E net sales services related with the operation, including commissions, including income with the personal telecommunications service, excluding hunting, fishing, license sales, money order, traveler checks, postage stamps, automobile, motorcycles sold on a minimum flat rate commission. D. Gross revenues, following category. C. Recreational activities, both the direct and indirect. Bowling, 13 lanes or more, users fees and charge. Golf courses, user fees, including annual green fees and charges. Marinas, private slip rental fees are only. 4. Motion picture fees. 5. Stables, private owner stall rental fees only. E. Assessments, all needed new indirect operation commission rate with a 10% or less will be made with the splitting of the commission with the 80%, with the going to installation 20%, and with the going to the DC mRNA operating fund. All MCS moral welfare recreation activities sales done by the activities above with conjunction with the open house community events with the air show shall be assessed. No other MCCS activity shall be assessed. 1312 unit funds, Marine Corps installation and Marine Corps non-appropriate funding should minimal provide with a $10 per Marine per year unit funds, party picnic funds for unit social functions other than moral welfare recreation related expenses authorized in paragraphs 13, 13, 13, 14 below. No items and or services purchased for the MCS units funds are authorized 10% discount everything except tobacco and alcohol products. These funds should not be carried over the year end unless the installation commander authorizes a waiver to do so. 1313 proper expenditure for the MCCS non-appropriated fund. General policy administrator for the MCCS non-appropriated fund is in trust with the required for the funds to be expended. Prudence to the benefit of the greatest number of the authorized patrons of all the expenditure for the properly authorized plan and execute, but it does not mean all of the MCCS moral welfare recreation activities have to be available to everyone at all times, as long as the all authorized patrons have the opportunity to participate in some point of the planned activity. Similar activities at other times, non-appropriated funds may be used to support with the goal shall be provided with substantially equal support to all authorized patrons regarding money spent directly on the individual patron program provided with the MCCS moral welfare recreation activity must be operated with economical efficiency business-like manner that will ensure that their financial stability is subject to restriction below, but the non-appropriated funds may expend with the defray with the cost of the essential conducting these activities. 2. MCCS Civilian Marine non-appropriated funding policy, except for the non-appropriated funding for the wage for the administrative recruiting training with their retention, non-appropriated funded employees as well as for the paying MCS moral welfare recreation activity civilian employee with both appropriated funding, non-appropriated funding business expenses, including printing, business cards for the related business, authorized non-appropriated funding monies, authorized reimbursed for the duty, job-related training and education for the MCCS moral welfare recreation activity, non-appropriated funding, appropriated funding employees. 3. Other specific authorization when recommended with approval of the local committee with a non-appropriative may be expanded with a reason, but listed below. All transactions should be conducted official business over the funded activities concerned with the budget annually with available resources for the holiday special part of the starts for the Marine Corps birthday ball, also for the MCCO 5131 reference to AT. Something is done with connection official events for the deployment of brief for the welcome aboard orientations, award ceremonies, commander calls, workshop changes of command, etc. Reports the MCCS moral welfare recreation category A, B, or C categories installation are open to all members of the military community. Support of the best interests authorized patron. Note that above the authorization intended to imply with the non-appropriated funds must be used to support the command sponsored events, but simply mean with the moral welfare recreation events such as social events may be held in conjunction official events if the desired subject to all the restriction below. Local visiting dignitaries may be hosted with lunch and dinners for the special events and their attendance for the benefit of the overall MCCS moral welfare recreation activity operation. Funding shall be spent throughout the installation act unless the inadequate and unable to meet the need. To improve the appearance and enjoyment of the area with appropriate funding, dining with the facility, reception centers, and guard or duty rooms that will not authorized with the appropriate funding resources. C. To reimburse the commanding generals of the coffee, tea, soft drinks, and pastry products in conjunction with the recruit infantry training school graduation exercises. A percentage of profits of the determined local commander for the vending operation of the transfer of the local civilian welfare recreation activity to support their programs. E. For the MCS family team board programs authorized for the deputy commander for the MR and AMR air show open house events policy. The MCCS may not only be supported for the installation, air show, opening house, public affairs events to the extent of the directly supported for the mental welfare recreation category A, B, or C operation activities run in conjunction with that. Authorized moral welfare recreation and appropriate support. Moral recreation and appropriate funding expenditure for the cause, such as for the separate seating with the portable, with the toilets, for the rental cars, to the PA system, advertising, printing. Resumption open to all authorized patrons. Tenant rentals are authorized to the extent support of the moral recreation air show activity, MCS moral recreation and welfare recreation segment. The air show's open house public affairs events include concession stand sales, contracted civilian entertainment acts or fireworks cars may be to retain with the MCS moral welfare recreation for use of the MCCS moral recreation pilot contractors over their employees. May be issued contractor letters of identification per Joint Travel Regulation Volume 2, although with no obligation to do so. Rental car companies may rely on such letters charged for the rental car rates comparable to those charged for the government. The rental car rates comparable to those charged for the government employees. Contractor rental car costs will not be reimbursed by MCS. Contractors may include their expense for the negotiated contract fees. Being unauthorized moral welfare recreation and appropriate funding support with the moral welfare recreation and appropriate funding may not be spent within any of the costs of the appropriated funding for the authorized nor may be spent within anything directly connected with the moral welfare recreation segments for the air show, open house, public air fairs, events. Some specific prohibitions are rental cars and transportation for the per diem costs of the military members include piloted for the Department of Defense civilian, not for the moral welfare recreation business reception. Exclusive certain programs of the attendance that does not benefit the moral welfare recreation programs which are eligible for the moral welfare recreation penetrant. Excluded fuel, military aircraft, and or miscellaneous public work support unless directly support moral welfare recreation costs not authorized for appropriated funding. Support, selection, operation, control of the civilian air acts must remain for the installation area for the show for the representative of the funding for the acts may be done with the non-appropriated funding revenue generated by air show commercial sponsor preferred by the moral welfare recreation and appropriated funding. Mccs contract offers will contract for selected civilian air acts in their capacity representatives of the installation air show committee. The MCS may not enter the commercial sponsorship contract violate existing understanding or agreement. Contracts must contain provisions civilian air show acts of the vendor carry through their own insurance. Contracts containing provisions that civilian air show acts of the vendors carry for their own insurance, which coverage established for the deputy commander, mRNA, and name of the host installation, MCCS, personal family readiness division, additional insured. T. Specific air show liability insurance is not required as all civilian acts, air acts are part of the official air show performance and are considered to be covered in Federal Tort Claims Act, reference being the N. Not appropriate to fund with the deputy commander mRNA with the reserve units of the family days may only be used for family days, no other purposes. 6. If there's any doubt about priority particular expense for the non-appropriated fund, consult with the deputy commander MNRA-MR restrictions of those use of the non-appropriated funds. 13.14. Use of the non-appropriated fund prohibited with the following: conducting activities other than those of the MCCS moral welfare recreation activity to military proficiency prize award individual performance regularly assigned duties. See MCO 7042-6C. Reference I, paying meal charges for the governmental personnel, APF per diem enlisted members, sport teams, APF dining facility donation relief, charitable commercial organization to the individual purchasing food supply equipment for the appropriated funding, dining facilities. 6. Service or articles related with the moral welfare recreation activity obtained through the expenditure of the appropriated funding unless the article of service is not obtainable in sufficient quantity for the quality to meet the needs of the installation. 7. Supporting the projects involved in the improvement of rehabilitation, construction, religious facilities. Purchase, printing, and engraving Christmas cards, other personal greeting cards to construct the altar, renovate, furnish any facility not used primarily as part of the MCS moral welfare recreation activity except authorized in paragraph 13.14 above. And the operating 10. Operating expense of the dependent schools. 11. Supporting private organizations, skydiving clubs, sports clubs, etc. CMCO 57-64B, reference J. Supporting functions held primarily to accomplish public affairs with the objective of not directly related to moral welfare recreation. 13. Incentive awards not related to the operating MCS moral welfare recreation activities, grants, loans, and other non-appropriate funding instruments except for specifically authorized by the deputy commander M and R and A. 15. For protocol and command representation functions, official representation funds are authorized by the Czech Navy's instruction 7042-7K, reference AV, command or commander's personal and entertainment obligation, retirement receptions, MCS non-appropriated funds, and ORF. Official representation funds, appropriated funds may not be used interchangeably. 16. Social affairs are on a particular individual for purchase of anything that is specific to the individual. This includes purchasing memento type items of the guests of the command, including entertained civilian dignitaries, military personnel, both foreign and U.S., leasing ground facilities, relocatable buildings, unless prior approval is granted with the DC mRNA-MR, using units of the party and picnic funds for expense with other than expandable items and services. They should not be used to purchase capital equipment, to purchase common man award memento coins. Alright, 1315 Uniform Fund Management Practice. With Fund Management Practice with the meaning of the which commanded flexibility with the funding of the maintenance, moral welfare, recreation activity, meaning of the permitting appropriated funding. Use of the non-appropriated funding of the practice may only give the MCS moral welfare recreation activity authorized with the appropriated funding. See Appendix C of the authorized activity expense for the Title 10 U.S. Standard Code 2494 reference AW initial regulatory language. 1. The first step of the setting up of the practice is with the development memorandum of the agreement between the local non-appropriated funding instrument and the installation of the memorandum of the agreement will be used and signed with the senior A appropriated fund, non-appropriated funding administrators that approved by the appropriate committee. But this must be done with a memorandum of agreement must be signed before application of appropriated funding. Memorandum of agreement to specify appropriated funding. Appropriated program funding support, including an amount. Obligation schedule to provide installation memorandum. The agreement will outline with the amount plan with the maintenance, moral welfare, recreation program cost account code. Appropriate program funding over the moral welfare recreation operation will not exceed the non-appropriated funding instrument costs. Providing the services of the MCCS shall maintain a budget. Accounting records, final financial report, appropriated funding provided by the audit purpose, chain funding service provided must be amended with a memorandum of agreement. 2. Funds provided through the uniform funding management. Uniform funding management practices shall not be even circumvent and prohibit the appropriated fund of the non-appropriated funding extent of the availability of appropriated program funding beyond financial year. For example, appropriate program fundings provided during the FY official years of XX can only be for the bona fide need for the official year, even using uniform funding and management practices. Relevant vacant. MCCS moral welfare recreation appropriated program funding personnel position converted with the non-appropriated funding positions under this practice. The only converted will not be converted back to the full-time equivalent, and billet will be lost. It does not mean that the funding will be lost. However, the letter of allowance for the billet issue of the CMC will be modified to reflect the position of the non-appropriated funding position. Funding of this position is transferred for the service of the accounting over the uniform funding and management policy list of billets. Fund with the uniform funding management practice shall exclude with the memorandum of agreement. 1316 staff of the MCCS program shall be the staff of the combination civilian appropriated funding, non-appropriated funding, military personnel contract with the pay for the appropriated funding, non-appropriated funding volunteers, other categories, foreign, national, oversee the MCC activity to authorize appropriated funding, non-appropriated funding staffing indicated by chart paragraph 1300. MCCS moral welfare recreation activity authorized appropriated funding staff of the person appropriate MCCS moral welfare recreation activity funding category defined in Appendix B and C for the all MCCS moral welfare recreation activity except the retail authorized appropriated program funding over the Executive Council Assistant Command Executive Council Essential Command Supervision defined in Appendix A with the non-appropriated funding staff authorized with all MCCS categories A, B, and C moral welfare recreation activity military personnel may be assigned and indicated below. A T/O identify with the activity duty of military appropriated program, non-appropriated personnel, local national employees overseas is mandatory. 1. Civilian staff of the Marine Corps MCCS activities will be staffed primarily with the civilian non-appropriated funding personal policy shall be with the MCO 12,011A with the reference 1. Appropriated program funding policy shall be per Title 5 of the Code Federal Regulation reference of the BJ, but in some cases the MCCS activities may be the staff and contract third-party vendors supplied staff shall and public-private ventures. See the definition Appendix A. Oversee there may be other categories local nationals used in personnel service contract supplement staff levels generally prohibited. 2. Military staff of the permanently military personnel may be assigned the following any table of the organization authorized bill of the MCCS activity position MCCS program. Then, when CMC determines the assignment of the Marines as a required support wartime contingency operations required based on the past practice, or is required to oversee rotation, executive control, essential command services, supervision position, and where the position cannot be filled effectively with the civilians. A lifeguard position at Category A, swimming pool, temporary with a military person must be placed with a temporary assignment of the MCCS moral welfare recreation programs. For 180 days or less, temporary assignment of the Marines may only be made if the Fleet Assistance Program personnel is not occupying the TO billet billets and required to carry out the provisions of the FAP or the Fleet Assistance Program may not be used to fill Category C positions. Mobility or deployment requirements occur. Training, upgrade, maintain essential military skills cannot be provided otherwise. For the above, the meant not to discourage officers and enlisted volunteers to offer duty employment of the enlisted personnel. 5. Assign appropriated program funding seasonal over higher personnel employed under the summer youth programs is encouraged. Alright, MCCS Policy Manual, Chapter 1, General Policy, Section 4, Other General Policies. 1400, Audit and Inspection. MCCS program of the office and subject with the internal, with the external, with the derivative, and give the derivative audits and review the inspection. MCCS will work with the concert with the Marine Corps with non-appropriate funding audit services to develop the area with the interest, financial performance management, assistance for the audit of the installation of headquarters, U.S. Marine Corps, and or the queried yearly with the nominations of the annual audit plan. The results of these audits with the subsequent reports issued with the chair of the command, with the deputy commander, with the MRNA, for the review of the analysis appropriate to the action. Other external reviews may come from the Government Accountability Office of Naval Audit Services, the Department of Defense Inspector Office, the Office of the Inspector General of the Marine Corps. These will occur sporadically, a little or no notice that involved any of all the program managers, depending upon the subject of the draft reports for the comments will be filmed with the Deputy Commander of the MNRA, MCO 5224C, with the reference AR, Audits General, with the Audits and Management Tools will be used at all levels with the Committee, with the Management, with the determine the operating efficiency of the activities shown with the air. Supervision with the type of the audits may be encountered or shown below, with the general with the audits for the conduct of the test, for the priority financial transaction, accuracy of the accounting records, related documents for the review of the operation, determine the effective efficiency of the economy of the use of research, with the degree of the compliance with the regulation, internal audit of the MCNAFAS for the internal audit agency for the CMC chartered for the authorized even for the regional office for the internal audits for the appropriate funding instruments at such time under conditions prescribed by the MCO 7510-2E with the reference Z, with these auditors authorized free access for the non-appropriate fund functions to perform surprise cash accounts to observe the operation, copies of the internal audit reports provided by the activity of the commander, for the commanders within the chain of command. Audit is completed with the internal review. Internal review provided by the commander with the in-house means of evaluating efficiency, effectiveness, installation, non-appropriate funding instrument for the other. Comprehensive of the audit program, General Accounting Office of the Naval Audit Service, covered active with the Marine Corps, supported with the degree of the operation by the Congress, tracing specifically in transaction necessary representative of the Government Accounting Office or the Naval Audit Service to explain any or all the records. Full cooperation will be recorded. Such representatives there and carry out the statutory responsibility outlined in the Marine Corps Manual, others directives. Follow-up actions. All audits will require the follow-up action should be done with the Corps for the MCO 7510-30A, the reference AB for the command attention response. Follow-up to audit reports for the Government Accountability Office of the Department of Defense Inspector General, the Naval Audit Services, and the Marine Corps non-appropriate funding audit services. All external audits of the Department of Defense Instruction 10-15-15 reference AQ for the required for the annual service with wide audit with the non-appropriate funding instruments of the independent audit organization. These audits shall be included with the headquarters non-appropriate funding instrument. Such individuals non-appropriate funding may be necessary for the auditor to express the opinion of the non-appropriate funding financial statement of the Marine Corps. 2. Audit review oversight with the committee. Audit review oversight with the committee with the charge of the disturb of the advisory with the capacity of the director of the MR chair of the the matters of the related with the ongoing pending with the completed external direct audit for the review of the inspection identified with the responsibility implementation corrective action committee will consider the permanent and the ad hoc members of the appointed of the permanent members of the deputy directors of the plan policy with the analysts of the business operation programs. General support, MR Council, MR Chief of the Financial Office, and a recorder with the head audit with the review of the branch of the Deputy Commander of the PNR. Director of the Marine Corps, non-appropriate funding audit services. Our representative of the non-voting members of the committee will meet with the quarterly with the order of the chair. 1401 Functional Assessments. Functional assessment inventory with the phase process with the reasonable with the correct currently as is program operation benchmarking analysis of the contained industry standard best practices and with 2B with the development section involved with the program subject matter expert with the team and who with the conduct of the gap and comparative with the analysis of the as is benchmark information. 1402 fundraising events authorize MCS more welfare recreation activity both to join the ethics and regulation directive of the 5507 and R of the reference end of the events shall be limited. Authorized use of these activities funding raised must be benefit with the activities authorized use of the fundraising activities shall be entirely with the Marine Corps installation and gambling activities including lottery pool gaming the chance for the money and the property strictly prohibited. An individual Marine unit with the Department of Defense installation may hold the fundraising events for the augment their own unit funds subject to the local regulation. They should first, with the receipt of the permission locally, MCCS comply with above the requirements of units and will they may not be conducted raffle fundraising activities. All money raised should be turned in and controlled by the MCS, not appropriate funding and benefit over the unit. See the MCO 5764B, reference J with the guidelines fundraising, the private organization fundraising events and charities, including single cause charities, may be held with the MCS more welfare recreation activities. Per guidelines contain the Department of Defense 5507 and R reference them with a joint ethics regulation. Generally, these allow with the fundraising events, United Charity campaigns, authorized Secretary of the Defense Military Certificate to aid with society's military certificate organization compared primarily of Department of Defense members of these families, raising funds among the own members for benefit of the welfare funds for the members and families after the commanding constellation with the designated ethics officer for the commercial sponsorship arrangement of the not considered fundraising events. Or MCCS organizational template installation commander, assistant chief secretary with the director of MCCS, the MCFD with the KV link spouse leadership prep credo, Marine families for the council, for the children and youth teams, lifelong learning, personal readiness, combat, Semper Fi fitness center, physical fitness for the health promotion, sports, parks, outdoor equipment support, single marine program, community recreation, aquatics, waterfront areas, deployment support, performing arts, business operation exchange activity, Gulf Marines, Marine SCOBA, information ticket toward leisure travel, the foods for the TLF, stable, retails, cabins, equipment, rental, private organization, motion pictures, auto skills, aircraft, tactical fields, exchange, third party, commission, concessionaries, general sport, financial account, procurement, information, human resource, construction, administration, marketing. Alright, policy, MCCS policy manual, chapter 2, Marine Corps community for the program operation.